And I'm pleased to have with us this morning for the first time ever on the show. He's the Florida Speaker of the House. Representative Paul Renner represents Florida's 19th District in the Sunshine State, retired commander in the United States Navy. And before I say anything else, Mr. Speaker, thank you for serving our country. How are you today?
Thank you, Preston. It's great to be with you. And I'm also here sequestered in our state's capital in the peninsula paradise of America.
Yeah, boy, what a fun 4 weeks you've had so far. I mean, could you have seen a better outcome than you've had thus far?
No, but it's session's not over, so I'm not bragging. The champagne's still not even in the refrigerator yet. We've got a lot of big ticket items we're gonna win on before this session's over. But yeah, we've had a great start, no doubt.
Explain to listeners across Florida that are catching our visit right now the importance of HB1, the universal school choice. How does that impact people's lives?
Well, look, 25 years ago when we started to give people choice about where their kids could go to school, Florida was at the bottom of the barrel in K-12. We're now near the top, and that's because of competition. You know, every business has an entrance and an exit. And if you do well, more people come in the entrance. If you don't do well and you don't meet people's needs, they walk out the exit. And so we've created an exit and an entrance for all schools. And by introducing choice, we also affirm people's values. You know, you read, and we are witnessing and legislating around people's attempts, some activists within our schools and outside our schools, to radicalize our children, to hold their values up for derision and mockery. And one of the great things about choice is it gives you, as a parent, the opportunity to send your kid to a school that does not do that to the values that you're teaching your child at home. And finally, and importantly, is customization. So what the bill also does is create an ESA. So different from school choice in the last 25 years, which was a voucher to a private school, this is now much more multidimensional in that you can spend it on in-home tutor, on online courses, on fees for taking a test, for example. And also it can go multiple different directions. You could be a homeschool kid that could contract one day a week to go to a traditional public school for a physics class, for example, if there's room. And so it really totally resets education as it should have been, where we're going to start from scratch years and years ago and not create the monopoly that we inherited.
Speaker Renner, what would you say to parents? Because obviously there are not enough private and charter schools that are out there across the state to meet the demands if everybody left the public school as we know it. What would you say to parents that may not feel like they have a choice to move a child out? What can they do to leverage this to improve outcomes inside their zoned public schools?
Well, I think it inherently does that because, again, it means that there's even more competition for that zone public school. And so they either step up their game or they, at some point no longer function because people will want to leave and find a different option. But I would encourage people to learn more about the scholarship. You're right in saying that there are limited seats in the private schools today where people can go. But this money also goes to homeschoolers. And so it helps them as well. So it's not just about private schools. And, of course, we have bills that are going through the process on charter schools, which are public schools essentially without unions, that on issue after issue outperform their peers at the traditional public schools. And so those options are there as well. And, of course, we're looking at transitioning the way we fund what's called the FEFP, our public school education, to better align with a money follows the backpack approach. And that FEFP revision is something that's a big part of our discussion here in Tallahassee over the coming weeks.
Florida Speaker Paul Renner with us for another few minutes this morning. Obviously, we're at the halfway point of the session. Talk about that funding formula for pre-K to 12.
Well, we've looked at the multitude of categoricals, which are little silos of money that have grown kind of like the IRS code, and said we need to update those because as our education policy has evolved over 25 years, and you've seen that go in a positive direction toward innovation, our education formula is like a flat line of just sameness and status quo. And so we're looking to change that and better align that so that when we look at the budget, it better reflects where we are today in terms of education policy.
When I looked at the story last week where it was basically framed this way that, boy, Disney pulled a fast one and outflanked the governor and the state legislature with the reorg inside Reedy Creek, what were your thoughts on all that?
Well, I think what they've done is in bad faith. I think they were disingenuous in terms of their interaction, during the special session, kind of staying tight-lipped. We didn't know about this until after the special session concluded. But I don't think they duped anybody. I think they duped us through a notice that my understanding was very vague and nondescript in terms of what they were attempting to do at a called meeting. So think of your average garden variety meeting, not something that would transfer away all the assets and all the power away from the incoming board. But look, I think there's a legal argument that what they did was void. We call it void ab initio, like from the outset, that they didn't have the authority to do what they're doing. Think about it this way: you're leasing out a car, and the lease ends at the end of this month, but you're going to go ahead and subcontract it out to somebody else to have for the next 5 years. Well, you can't do that because you don't have the right to do anything with that car once that period ends. In the same way, we had already passed a bill that said Disney sunsets in June of this year, absent some compromise, absent some change, which the governor put in place with the legislature. And so that's really, I think, where the lawyers are going to look and litigate this issue to overturn this. But as I said yesterday, all legislative options are also on the table. So we're looking at what we can do legislatively. But the bottom line is this is a company that has gotten used to playing by its own rules for over 50 years, and they doubled down and don't want to stop.
Florida Speaker of the House, Paul Renner, with us. We've talked a lot, as you could well imagine. The profile of talk radio, certainly in Florida, is largely made up of people that believe in the Second Amendment. Permitless concealed carry is obviously a huge step in the right direction, but there's still some more room to go. And so give us your take on what you think it will take to get to full open carry, because in states that have enacted it, it just isn't an issue. Tactically, I'd never do it, but the fact of the matter is it's the Second Amendment. So what do you think needs to happen to make that change next time around?
Well, I agree with everything you said, and look, I think open carry is easier than concealed carry from that standpoint. I also wouldn't carry open because it's a shoot me first approach, I think, but we'll get there. And I don't know if this legislature will get there or not, but it's something that I have supported and do support. We also have a bill in the House to repeal the 21 and under ban on long rifles. You can possess a long rifle if you're 20 years old, but you can't buy one, which doesn't make a lot of sense when you have to go through the extra background check to purchase one. So we're going to continue to get wins for the Second Amendment. The bill we passed, and I think the NRA would agree, is the biggest expansion of Second Amendment rights in Florida's history. It's a significant thing to align our gun rights with the Constitution. And so every Floridian now that is not a convicted felon or otherwise precluded can go out and protect themselves outside the home and carry a handgun in a concealed manner without having to get a permission slip from then Nikki Fried or name your future bureaucrat that may hold that office that may be hostile to gun rights. And we know that the Democrats, despite any denials, would prefer that no one have a gun. No one have a gun. And that's not a good place to be. That's not an American place to be. And so I'll continue to advocate for the gun rights of law-abiding men and women.
Mr. Speaker, thanks for a few minutes of your time. You're welcome back anytime you can fit us into your schedule.
Thank you, Preston. Great to be with you.